The best chess players in the world like Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Ding Liren, and many more are very strong for a reason. They're not just big names in chess. They are really very strong grandmasters. So what do they have in common that makes them great? Is it their training? Is it their coaches? Is it their talent? Or just because they are genius? Well, most certainly, part of that is their skills and their ability to understand chess better than other common players. In this video, we'll talk about positional understanding, static and dynamic advantages. What do these terminologies mean? Stay close and we'll dig deeper and learn these important chess principles. A static advantage is a long-term plus that is usually based on pawn structure, weak enemy pawns, strong center, extra space, etc. It could also be based on extra material, or even with superior minor pieces, like strong knight versus bad bishop. In this position, white piles up his rooks on the c-file, trying to put pressure on black's weak c6 pawn. Now, it is weak because it is a backward pawn sitting in a semi-open file. Now, this pawn will bother black throughout the game, as white will continue to attack it, for example, with knight e5, and at some point continue to keep an eye on it, monitoring it for the entire game. Okay? Now, white will continue to keep an eye on it, even until the end of the middle game and in the end game, until white capitalizes on it and takes advantage by capturing it. Now, gaining such an advantage is highly desirable since it usually lasts right into the endgame. This means that after you create a weak enemy pawn, you can torture it all through the middle game and then continue hounding the poor thing even when the endgame appears. Here, black just captured a poison pawn on c5 with his queen. White then played knight to a4, obviously trapping black's queen. If black wants to save his queen, he needs to give up a piece. Of course, giving your queen away would immediately lose, and queen takes d4 is also worse. He can play knight to c4. Now, bishop takes c4, and queen needs to move away to e7. White will then save his bishop with bishop to a2. Now, black just saved his queen at the expense of his knight. Now black is down a full piece with no compensation. This material advantage is hard for black to survive. Even at grandmaster level, black could in fact resign. For white, being one full piece up is a long-term advantage, a static one, for as the middle game continues and even when the endgame arrives. For the rest of the game, white will have a lighter heart playing, while black will be forever feel wounded and trying not to lose. In this position, black played a very strong move, e4. Of course, white can take it with his d-pawn, as the rook on d1 will fall, right? We have a queen and rook here, putting some pressure, x-raying the rook on d1. So he plays d4, which actually makes sense, making the piling of this queen and rook seems to be useless. Then black played another good move, e3. White can take it with f takes e3 because knight takes e3 forks the king and the rook. So he closes again with f3. Now, this is a bad move as the bishop on h2 becomes trapped. For example, if the game continues with b6, even if white plays g3, then f takes g3, bishop g1, queen to f4, etc. This is a static advantage for black. Even if material is equal, and white owns the mighty bishop pair here. It looks like he's one piece down still, because of his useless dark square bishop. This is a huge burden to bear for the entire game, and black will take advantage of that. This position also looks solid for white and very difficult for black to sustain. Black has a weak king side here, and his king is somewhat unsafe there, right? He also has a bad bishop and some weaknesses on the light square. For the rest of the game, he will have to bear with a damaged pawn structure. White will play, for example, queen to d5, attacking both this knight and the pawn here, which is actually weak. Or he can also play queen to d3 to f5, followed by knight to e4 soon. And this static advantage is going to be devastating for black. Now, what is dynamic advantage on the other hand? A dynamic advantage centers around temporary items like development, initiative, and more active pieces. Make sure you make use of this dynamic plus before the opponent catches up in development. Your initiative runs dry or your active pieces are exchanged. In this position, White's more active pieces gives him powerful dynamic plus. He should play active moves that increase or can increase his advantage before Black will have the time to maneuver his pieces and create some counterplay. White will not just dance around and waste time. He can create the initiative and can play, for example, queen to g7, followed by or rook to h7 at some point to create pressure in this f7 pawn. Can also capture that bishop there and have this kingside attack capitalize on his side. This is going to be a huge advantage for him, while Black's pieces are still finding its way to maneuver. Here, White plays d6. The idea is simple: to keep Black's light square bishop underdeveloped. Now, therefore, rooks can be connected if that is not going to happen, right? After the move d6, this c8 bishop here, the chances of this bishop on this file here is actually being shut down. It's only now a dream that is only to be dreamt, right? Now, because this d7 pawn is locked and can't move forward, okay? White will also play a6 at some point if he's got this chance to play it and continue to paralyze this bishop there. While Black finds some ways to minimize the impact of his underdeveloped pieces, White will use this and take advantage of his lead by creating attacks. He could also play, for example, f4 at some point to f5 to attack Black's king there, while Black soldiers are not yet ready and not yet organized to defend his king. Now, this position here came from this. This king here by Black has been uncastled for the long time. And White played rook to e1. And we have here king f8, right? Now, Black loses his right to castle. It means that he will have hard time to connect his rooks. Plus, his bishop on c8 is not developed yet, same as with his f4 bishop. Okay, now, with this kind of position, White needs to take advantage of this dynamic advantage. He needs to have some active moves to make this materialize. He can play bishop to f4. And for example, how does Black continue? Bishop d7, for example, or a6, for example. He could play queen to c2, and he could also pile up his rooks here at some point, because this king will have hard time to really have this artificial castling and this rook to come out some point. And that is going to be a delay in development for Black. Therefore, White needs to create active play to make this a winning game for him and take advantage of that delay in development for Black. In reality, many games feature one side owning a static advantage while the other boasts a dynamic advantage. This means that, for example, White might have a far superior pawn structure that is static, which he hopes to make use in the endgame. Black, on the other hand, might have more active pieces, and that is dynamic. Now, this scenario instantly tells both players what to do. White must activate his own pieces, exchange his inactive ones for the superior enemy guys, or deactivate the hostile units, when his structural plus will tip the scales in his favor. Black must quickly play for a knockout or try to create static pluses of his own before White achieves his goals. Now, let us materialize that in this position. In this kind of position, White is a pawn down. We have 6 pawns versus Black's 7 pawns. Now, even though White is a pawn down, this gives Black superior long-term prospects. Now, because White is pawn down, Black can think of imagining the game should lead to a better endgame for him. Now, but Black also has his own disadvantage. Okay? But Black has his own disadvantage, and that is going to be his delay in development. Okay? His king is still in the center, his knight is still at the G8 square, and that's a short-term plus for him. And active pieces give him the initiative. Now, this position for both players, where White is a pawn down, all right, a long-term prospect for Black, and Black is delay in development, okay, and that is going to be a short-term plus for White. This amounts to a battle of philosophies. Black has squirreled away a nice nest egg for his old age, the endgame, while White is trying to get the maximum amount of rush from the here and now. In general, the pendulum can swing either way. Imagination and good set of nerves are the weapons you need most in this kind of situation. Now, the key is very simple. Here's the thing. Static advantage is about long-term pluses that normally materializes in the middle game and in the end game, while dynamic advantages are short-term pluses that needs active play to capitalize. If you learned something from this video, please hit like button and follow Metal Eagle Chess Center for more videos in the coming days.
Hey, check this video out to make sure that you get more important information to bring your chess to the next level.